since the fight, I've heard a few people, read a few people online saying the fight was closer than the judges scored it, with a possible draw and even a win for Madrimov. So, do you think the judges got it right, and why? And how did you score the fight?
I usually don't score fights when I'm watching them. I just kind of watch them out of enjoyment to just see the elite level fighters. But I don't know what the controversy is about. I thought Crawford won the fight pretty clear. He won the fight with his jab. Madrimov did a really good job of neutralizing some of Crawford's offense, but that doesn't mean he won the fight. I don't understand the controversy. I thought naked eye, I thought Crawford won 8 or 9 rounds.
8 or 9 rounds, okay. Yeah, I thought he won. So, what about Madramov's style of fighting? So, the style seemed to disrupt Crawford's timing early on. So, how important is that, to sort of figure that out, that sort of herky jerky style, get your timing down, and what could Crawford have done to establish that sooner?
I think that his patience threw Crawford off. He didn't open up as much. Crawford is a master counterpuncher. He wants you to open up so he can make you pay underneath with body shot and then over the top. Crawford has really long arms, so he knows how to like loop punches around. He's very clever with the way he punches, and I think that he wanted Madrimov to open up, but Madrimov would act like he was open up. He would never do it. He would just keep swinging in and out. Had a really good style to throw Crawford off, but he couldn't figure out a way to score points while he was neutralizing Crawford. So maybe as he gets more experience or fight lesser fighters, he'll be able to score points while he's neutralizing them. So I thought he fought a really good, smart fight. Him and his team had a good game plan, but he just couldn't score enough points. Crawford's jab basically won the fight for him. What Crawford could have done differently, I really don't know. I do know he would have had to make Madrimov open up a little bit more. Now, how to go about that, I don't know. Uh, Madrimov was really disciplined. He just wouldn't open up. So, the only thing Crawford could have did differently was make him open up more so he could counterpunch him more. But Crawford couldn't really make Madrimov open up a lot. So that was really interesting. And then when Madrimov did open up, he was landing a really clever lead right hand. It was landing on Crawford flush. And Crawford didn't really counter that as good as he normally does. And I think it's because Madrimov didn't show him too much, so Crawford couldn't get the timing down to that shot. So he would have just had to make Madrimov open up a little bit more. But I think Crawford fought an excellent fight because to make Madrimov open up more, he would have probably had to get a little closer to him and open up a little more himself. And by opening up himself, he would have been in there with a dangerous, strong guy. You could tell that Madrimov is explosive. He's strong. I know they both fought at 154, but he's a bigger person than Crawford. His body density and his muscle mass, you got to realize Crawford started at 135. He got to 154. He's 36 years old. So look how long it took him to get there. Madrimov started out there. So 154 is Madrimov's start out weight, and 154 is Crawford's top weight so far in his career. So it's a big difference in like their bone density and size, even though Crawford is freakishly strong. So I thought that he fought a smart, careful fight. He could have got hurt. You see his eye after the fight? See how his head was snapping back? That's a strong guy. But I don't think he was in jeopardy of losing and all that kind of stuff. I didn't see that. I saw a good tactical fight, but Crawford's jab carried the day.
So going back to you mentioned his jab, and he fought a smart fight. So what about those critics who say you need to take the title away from the champion?
That's all bullshit. That's no such rule exists. Boxing is filled with things that people say. I'm gonna tell you something. In boxing, you could get really far by just having common sense. And in boxing, a lot of people don't have common sense. They just say things that just aren't true, and they'll just repeat them, even if they know they aren't true. There's no such thing as that. Show me a rule or a book or anything in any type of official state commission manual that says that the challenger for the title has a higher burden of performance than the champion does. It's ridiculous and it makes no sense. It's not even true. When people say it, I just look at them and say, where'd you hear that? It's just something that somebody said one day and then people start repeating. It's really ridiculous and I don't buy into it. Obviously, the judges didn't because he won the fight. If this rule was true, guys like Willie Pep and Pernell Whitaker could never win titles because they boxed their whole careers. So it's ridiculous.
It's also unfair because then, as a challenger, you're already in a disadvantage.
Say that one more time.
It's unfair as well to the challenger because you're automatically put at a disadvantage if that is the general sort of thinking. It's like
it's just not win? True.
Yeah, it's like starting
it's
7
not
points
true.
behind.
It's something that somebody made up. It's just not. All the elite boxers, guys like Paulie Malignaggi, guys like Yvonne Calderon, they could never win fights. How did they become champions if this rule was true?
Yeah, I don't know where this saying came from, but I'm reading it online. But I know I'd Crawford anyway, so
listen,
I don't agree with it.
I got one for you. If Ali is the GOAT, how could this rule be true? Tell me.
Yeah, I don't agree with
how
this
is Floyd Mayweather the greatest fighter of this century if this rule was true?
Yeah, but it needs to be explained, doesn't it? Because the people are sort of picking that. Maybe it's just people just don't like the challenger, or maybe they had a better than I don't know. But yeah, it's coming up more and more often now, isn't it? The past few years, I never heard of it. Like you mentioned, like 10 years ago. It seems to be more of a recent thing.
I've been hearing it since I've been following boxing, and it's a stupid thing to repeat because it's not true. It's just not. Talk to the guy from the Nevada State Commission and say, does the challenger have to do more than the champion? Ask a judge. Get a judge on your show. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you, boxing is just filled with, I don't want to say stupid, but just people that just aren't intelligent. And they just say things. One time I heard somebody say, I scored that fight a split decision. I said, how could one person score a fight a split decision? How? And they kind of like looked at me. I said, there's no such thing as one person saying, I scored the fight a split decision. And the person meant it. A split decision is only a difference of opinion of multiple people. So what do you have, a split personality? I'm like, God damn. And this was a prominent person in boxing. People in boxing are just not intelligent, man.
Maybe you watched the fight 3 times, I don't know. 3 different screens in the arena. Okay, so you mentioned as well about Madrimov's use of feints and the cautious sort of pressure. So how would you train a fighter to deal with this kind of approach? Because it's, as you mentioned, it's a very difficult style to deal with. So how do you, because feinting is going to throw you off. It's difficult to get your timing down feint. So how do you prepare a fighter to deal with this sort of style of lots of different feints?
I think Crawford fought him the right way. Crawford didn't open up too much. He didn't reach too much. He used his jab. I think Crawford fought him the right way. I think that
to stay disciplined,
Crawford realized that he could score more points on Madrimov with his jab than anything else. And sometimes you just take the simple shot and win the fight. Sometimes it's not worth trying to be exciting and running into something stupid. Madrimov is losing the fight, and it was hard for him to open up. Crawford was winning the fight with his jab. I think that Crawford and Crawford's team fought the right fight. Crawford has an elite IQ, and he always fights the right fight. And I think that that's what he did. I have no problem with how he fought. That's a big, strong, herky-jerky guy. And if Crawford would have opened up too much without having any openness, he could have ran into something and got clipped. So I think he fought the smart fight. And then he did step on it late. He stepped on it in the 11th and 12th round. So he did good. Sometimes, you got to get the win and not just be so exciting and get the KO. He's been knocking everybody out. It's not like he doesn't let his hands go, but that was a tricky guy. And I think he fought a smart fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going up a division as well, like you mentioned. Fighting a bigger man, you don't want to run into something.
Especially when you're winning with your jab.
Yeah. He stayed disciplined the whole fight. So did Crawford show you anything different in this fight you haven't seen before from him? His ability to take a punch as well from a bigger man, fighting with his eyes on. He's missing a lot of punches, but he's still stuck to the game plan. Anything different from
No,
Crawford that impressed you?
he didn't show me anything I haven't seen. I've seen over 20 of his fights. I've been watching him ever since he was on HBO with actually I saw him fight a guy from Canada named something George. I can't remember. But since then, I've been watching him his whole career. So I've seen him fight over 20 times. And he's involved. He's an all-time great fighter. He's operating on autopilot right now. That's a great fighter.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's been number one pound for pound for a good 4 or 5 years.
I mean, in the argument at least. Let me see, 2019, probably, yeah. I mean, it's between him and a few other guys, but he's my number one guy. But Usyk got a good argument. And in a way, they got good arguments. But
Yes.
I think Crawford's the guy.
Okay, so I was reading your mailbag. So this is your prediction before the fight for Terence Crawford. So you've said, my instincts tell me that at some point Crawford will find it safer to be close to Madrimov than it is to be on the end of his big punches. At that point, I think he goes to his body, weakens him, and stops him late or dominates the second half of the fight for a clear competitive decision, which is pretty much the way it went. So how significant was Crawford's bodywork in the later rounds? And do you think that was the deciding factor in securing the victory?
Crawford's not known as a great body puncher, but he is. He sneaks a lot of body shots in there that the commentators miss, even the fans and the critics miss. He knows how to really, really weaken you with his body shots. Doesn't load up on him. He just, boom, he just whips them in. He has long arms, so he'll whip them around your elbow. He'll whip them under your elbow. He really knows how to stick good body shots in there. He reminds me of Mike McCallum. Mike McCallum didn't have a signature body punch, but he's kind of built like Crawford. If you look at McCallum, he was about 5'11", 6 feet, but he had really long arms. He just whip the shots in and whip them up underneath. McCallum's not a southpaw, but they're kind of built similar, and they remind me of each other when they go to the body. I think the body shots did do some damage. And Crawford tried to step on him in the 11th and 12th. He took a shot.
Yeah, Crawford is measured underrated body puncher. I mean, I remember when he beat Julius Ndongo, and that was a very good body shot.
I've never seen a fight where Crawford didn't hurt somebody with a body shot. He's very subtle with it. He knows how to get those shots in there, man. And you don't really see the effect of them, but then you see the guy energy levels going down, but his energy levels staying the same.
Yeah. So, question asked the guys I spoke to, Mustafa, Coach Mustafa, I spoke to him. I asked the same question. I would say the Russian European style. Do you think that is the antidote to the slick American style? Is that the style which gives the most problems to the American style of fighting?
You're talking about basically talking about the urban black guys because they still.
Yes, I think you mentioned in your mailbag in the past the slick urban style.
I do think that I think the way you throw off the urban black guys with our style is I think that good point scoring Eastern European style throws us off a little bit. And it's funny because I think the Mexicans, when they put pressure on them, it throws them off. So that's the rock, paper, scissors of it. Lomachenko has no issue fighting black guys. This is something in matchmaking that people don't like to talk about. But a lot of matchmakers, you know, they look at race, they look at where you're from. So I do think that that style kind of throws black fighters off a little bit. Look at Kovalev and Ward. Ward's a great boxer, Olympic gold medalist. He couldn't outbox Kovalev. He could outfight Kovalev. He got dirty with
Interestingly,
Kovalev. He
the
took
second fight,
Kovalev on
yeah.
the inside and ringed him out. You know what I mean? I don't mean dirty in a bad way. I mean dirty in a good way. He dirty boxed him, grabbed him, squeezed him, hit him to the body. He mauled him. And Andre Ward is an exceptional boxer. He cannot outbox that guy. So Usyk doesn't have problem fighting black fighters. You know, so I think that it definitely does. So I think the thing that throws a lot of black fighters off is how good those guys score points, you know, and their footwork, you know, because a lot of athletic, but I always say the thing that throws black fighters off is a more athletic black fighter or one of those Eastern European top level amateurs.
So do you think then that, because you did mention Kovalev Ward in the second fight, Ward made it a point to attack the body more. You just mentioned Usyk. Some people say the body shots is the best shot against him, and then we saw Crawford land some body shots on Madrimov. So do you think the body shots is a sort of key tactic to fight against that sort of Eastern European Russian style then?
It's not so much the body shots because, all honesty, nobody likes body shots. Nobody has a kidney or a liver that can't be hurt. It hurts everybody. I think what throws them off is when you don't give them time to think and you don't give them room to score points. They like to bounce. They like to keep you on the outside, and they don't want you up close to them, throwing their body rhythm off and pushing them and grabbing them. Their style is built on an amateur scoring system, so therefore they want room to score points. And when you get close to them and you force them to fight in a different mode, I think that throws them off. So I think that's why Ward, who's also a guy with an extremely high Q, said, you know what? It's too close on the outside. I got to take this guy on the inside. And I think that's why he did what he did. It just took me to the second fight to really, really get in his groove with Kovalev in there.
Okay, so
my battery's about to die. I'm charging my phone, but you're good. Let's still do it.
No worries. So does this fight change the way you would view a matchup between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez?
Let's see. I'm one of those people that think that Crawford can beat Alvarez. I think Crawford can beat Alvarez. I think it's going to be tough. He's going to have to fight the perfect fight. But I think if anybody could do it, it would be him. So I'm not going to say that I don't think he could beat Alvarez anymore because of this fight. But one thing that did concern me was the lead right hand that Madrimov consistently landed. He was snapping Crawford's head back on a consistent basis with that. And I think that Canelo is sharper than Alvarez. He doesn't have Madrimov's feet, but he's a better overall fighter. And I think he's a little sharper. So I still think that Crawford has a shot to beat Canelo. I know that Canelo will be the favorite. And it's a very good chance that Canelo could clip Crawford. Canelo can punch. And that right hand does bother me because Canelo knows how to fight southpaw. And Canelo's also operating on autopilot. He's another master. He's an all-time great. So it's things that he would do to throw Crawford off, and he would go to Crawford's body. You know, I have fighters who've been in camp with Canelo, and I have fighters who actually fought Canelo, and they all tell me he's brutal to the body. So I think it will be one of them fights where Crawford will have to come up with a trick, like something to throw Canelo. He would have to fight like the perfect fight I don't think he can knock him out, but I do think he can outpoint him.
Crawford came in to the fight with Madrimov weighing 169 pounds on fight night. Would he? I mean, would he need time to adjust to a higher weight if he was to take on someone like Canelo Alvarez, or do you think he can walk straight in there and take on Canelo at that sort of super middleweight?
I just think he would come in on his natural weight. But Crawford understands the science of boxing. He got a good team around him. They're going to have him come in at the weight that's most beneficial to him. I don't think he's going to weigh in at 168 because it wouldn't make any sense to do that. You know, he doesn't want to slow himself down, but he knows what weight he needs to come in at, and they're going to have him right for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would favour Crawford as well, slightly, but yeah, you just don't know with pushing that extra weight around for 12 rounds how it's going to affect him, as well as having Alvarez on his tail the whole 10, 12 rounds. It's a tough one, isn't it? Okay, so what about Crawford's standing now? So in the last, so say the 21st, so the last 24 years, where would you rank Crawford amongst the best fighters of the last 24 years, the 21st century?
Basically, this century.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, without doing like forensic research, I would say Mayweather is the top guy of the century. And then guys like Crawford, Usyk, Inoue. Shoot, I forgot about Pacquiao, Hopkins, Ward, Chocolatito, Canelo. A little bit of like guys like Oscar and Roy Jones's career went into this century. So off the top of my head, I put him in the top 10.
Okay.
But I think Floyd's the best fighter of this century. Damn, man. Hopkins unified the middleweight titles in this century. Then he went up and beat Tarver in his first fight at 175. I got to think about it. I put Crawford in the top 10, but I don't put him number one of the century.
Top 5?
Let me see. Mayweather. Yeah. Top 5-ish. I don't know if he's over Mayweather, Pacquiao, or Hopkins.
Yeah, I think Mayweather, Pacquiao, I think clearly sort of numbers 1 and 2, aren't they?
Yeah, I love Crawford, but he hasn't done more than Manny Pacquiao. Top 5-ish. I don't think he's done more than Mayweather, Pacquiao, or Hopkins, but everybody else he has an argument about.
So would you then place him above Canelo Alvarez then?
Let me think off the top of my head. Canelo won titles 54, 60, 68, 75, unified, fighter of the year. It's about even. But Canelo's resume is a little better.
Yeah, he has got a great resume, hasn't he?
Yeah, he got his resume is a little bit better than Crawford.
So moving on to a couple of the other fights on the same card. So again, I'm gonna quote your mailbag, talking about the fight between Isaac Cruz and Jose Venezuela. So Cruz versus Venezuela is a tougher fight than most think. I'm going to go out on a limb and pick Venezuela by upset decision. So Venezuela, again, he won that fight. So what did you see in Venezuela that made you pick him in that fight against Cruz?
I just thought the timing was right for him. I seen him in Minnesota when he fought Christopher Colbert in the rematch. He looked exceptional. I just felt that he was being undervalued in the fight. It was nothing against Isaac Cruz, but I think Cruz looked a little bit better than what he really is against Rolly Romero. I also think that the style that Cruz has, it burns out pretty quickly because it's all based on how much determination and viciousness you got, because he's just walking forward, walking through fire to land his fire. And it lets you like super elite, special level guy, like a chocolate Tito, you're going to have some up and down performances with that style. So I was comfortable with picking El Rey.
Yeah, I think I've read you mentioned in the past that I mean pressure fighters. I think is probably the most difficult style to go up against. But you think you mentioned that pressure fighter is also the style which fighters burn out with the quickest.
Look at your countryman, Ricky Hatton.
Yeah.
He was a great fighter for a short period of time. I think he was actually past his prime after he became champion. I think Kastezu was like his last prime performance. He was probably reaching his peak even before he became champion.
Still, I suppose to his credit, the only two that beat him before his first retirement were the two best in the world, Mayweather and Pacquiao, weren't they? But yeah, you're right, aren't you? Okay, so the fight between Jared Anderson and Martin Bakole. So Martin Bakole, he's from the UK. I saw him spar Derek Chisora 6-7 years ago, and he came into the gym with a reputation of being someone to watch out for in future. It's been some time. He finally got his breakout. But what did you make of that fight then? Because Anderson, I've heard his name mentioned when I've interviewed other coaches. There's been the sort of the next big thing out of the USA for heavyweights. So how did that fight go?
If my phone clicks off, man, I'm sorry, but my battery died. It's eating at my battery.
Well, no worries. We're almost done.
But that fight shocked me. But I didn't see enough of Bakole. I didn't know he was a George Foreman clone. That fight shocked me and impressed me. He was like walking and throwing uppercuts during the middle of his step. I haven't seen anybody do that since George Foreman did that to Jerry Cooney, where he walked by him and hit him with an uppercut and turned around and hit him with a right hand. That was devastating. That was devastating. I was very impressed, and I was really wrong about that fight. That's the one fight that I got wrong that night. I thought Jared Anderson would be a little bit too quick. I had knew that Michael Hunter beat Bakole, but I should have studied Bakole better. That was just destructive, very impressive, and I don't have nothing to say. I got that one wrong. Bakole he's rough. He's a rough customer.
So what about, was this too early for Jared Anderson? And Dawood, one of the coaches from Philly, Dawood Bey, he mentioned, is anyone going to question the coach of Jared Anderson? So what do you think? Was this fight too early for Anderson? Because Anderson looked like he had no game plan as well. So what about on that side of things?
I don't want to criticize the coaches because I don't know what they worked on and can't. I'm real careful with criticizing coaches.
But do you think it was too
I saw
early?
that he had Prentice Bueller and Sugar Hill in his corner. I don't know what they worked on, but
was it too early? Was it too early for Anderson to fight Bakole then? I suppose in hindsight we could say that, but we knew about him anyway.
Too early, man, because in most eras, guys is ready to fight when they are pro 4 or 5 years if they on the level. So this the only era where everybody acts like a guy got to have 10 years as a pro before he can step up. So I don't know if it was too early. He may not can't ever beat him. I don't know. Maybe the guy just has his number. But Jared Anderson is the one that said he wants to be done with boxing in the next 2 years. You remember that? So you can't say that they put him in there too early when the guy wants big fights and he wants to get out of boxing. You can't have it both ways. So he's the one who said that, so he got what he wanted.
So do you think him saying that has an effect on his psyche in the fight, in those tough moments? He thinks, well, I want to leave in a couple of years anyway. Do I have to continue with this beating?
I don't know, but he didn't show a lack of heart. He fought back. He was trying. I mean, he was taking an ass whooping and he was still punching. He was still trying.
Yeah.
I just think that guy was too much for him. Sometimes, man, a guy he just better than you that night. And sometimes you just gotta just be humble and just take the loss. I don't really know. Listen, I idolize Muhammad Ali. He's 22 years old when he fought Sonny Liston. I don't want to hear about something that's too early when the guy asks for the work and he asks for the big moments, and he asks for this. So I don't. His mental psyche is another thing. I don't know. You know, he did do an interview with Roy Jones, and he said some things and made people kind of look at him. But I don't know, man. I don't like to overanalyze things, and sometimes, sometimes I think these guys divulge too much in interviews. They got to be careful with saying every single thing that they think. You know, with social media allowing you to have just this release of your emotions and things so the world can see, and everybody always sticking a mic or a camera in your face, you got to be careful with divulging things because the perception of Gary Anderson has changed over the last year because of his interviews. But I still think he's a terrific fighter. He's a very talented guy. I've dealt with a lot of fighters coming off of losses, knockout losses, part of the game. He just has to stay off social media, be humble enough to acknowledge what went wrong, and be smart enough to know how to fix it. And he could come back.
Yeah, as you mentioned, social media. Hopefully, he doesn't listen to all the fans, all the people who say, you know, because that's we're in that sort of culture of one loss. People start writing you off after one loss. So hopefully, yeah, he doesn't pay any attention to that, and he's got some good coaches around him. So hopefully, yeah, he can sort of stay and get back on track.